Today's focus is using Copilot and using a few different things within Copilot. I'm actually excited today to be able to add in a little bit different piece than when I originally planned this, because at the time, the Microsoft Teach app had not been available yet. So I'm excited to add that in today. So we're going to focus on this concept of agents. But because Microsoft Education released the new Teach app, we now can add that in because it is a type of agent. It's an app. It's not technically an agent, but we can still add it in there, I think, because it creates this really cool workflow that lets us use that app. So when I say that, I'm just going to hop over to Microsoft Copilot so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to minimize these right here. There's a new app called Teach. So if you're logged in with your Microsoft Education account, you go over to the left-hand side on the Copilot main page. You can just go to office.com to get there. You should now see the Teach app. And literally every week, they're adding more to that Teach app. There was a brand new piece added this week we'll jump into in a moment. So that Teach app, which is a part of the whole agents ecosystem, it's not technically an agent. I'm using that term broadly, just to be clear, but it helps us in what we're going to create with agents. So I want to be able to show both. It works really well together. So I'm excited to be able to add that in today. So we're going to talk about the Copilot Free Agents. So this means, when I mean free, what I mean by that is you have a Microsoft Education account. You're an educator, you work in a school system somehow, and you have an education license. You don't necessarily have to have the elevated license. So when I say that, there is, I should say, another separate license for Copilot that you can purchase. I believe it's $15 a user now. It was more expensive last year, and they were able to drop the price. So I believe it's $15 a user now, and that adds more functionality. You get Copilot Studio, where you can do a lot more with agents and build some really amazing workflows. But the free agents can still help us out. There's still some great things that can help us do. So that's our focus for this time together. And then, because the Teach app came out, I'm also going to jump into that. And we're going to talk about how that supports this workflow, and then how do they work together, which I think is really where we get to bring them together and kind of see how that workflow goes. So if I don't know you, my name is Nathan Wells. Thanks for joining me today. This is one of the monthly, or actually lately I've been doing 2 a month with Phygital Labs. And Phygital Labs is an education consultancy. We do training, we do content development, all kinds of stuff around game-based learning, AI, and all of the above, everything in education technology. I was a former middle school teacher. Social studies is my background. I was a tech coach, worked in district office, and now I've been doing this. And one of the things that's exciting about this is we're seeing more and more of the tech companies start to realize that these early versions of some of the AI they were putting out had some good workflows to them. It helped save us some time. But really, it wasn't hitting the main pain points that a lot of teachers were asking for. A lot, specifically educators, right? Both K-12 and higher ed, both. So it's really cool to kind of see some things start to come out this school year, especially, that are answering some of those pain points in the ecosystems we're already working in. Google's done it. Microsoft is now releasing more and more. There's some other companies that are as well. So it's really cool to kind of see those kind of be released and get to try to work with them. So that's what we're going to dive into. So we're going to look at kind of why. And the whole concept here is to lighten your load. Let's make this not be such a heavy burden just to get your daily work done. So that's kind of the point here. And when I say lighten your load, it's not like just to turn off your brain and not have to do anything. It's really to help that cognitive load not be so caught up in how do I get the details, the little small things done, but instead you can be focused on really the main things you need to do and are really good at as an educator. And then Copilot can help you do the rest of it, which is pretty awesome. So that's really kind of the beauty of some of this. So I'm going to look at a couple of things. And while I'm doing this, I just want to mention um, that if you are with me live and you have some questions or you want to point out like, man, I saw this and it was really helpful, please share that in the chat. Please ask questions, but then also please share. If you've seen something work really well, what's amazing about that is your colleagues, other educators that are on this live, and I can read some of them out loud too, for those that watch the recording, you're all learning from each other and helping build up the educator community, which is what's so beautiful about these types of things. Just like looking at the registration list, we have people from all over the US and even some international. So please share, please ask questions, share what's worked well and how things are going. So first, let's look at the Teach app because this may be new for some of you. If you go to Microsoft Education's YouTube page, they have some kind of, what's the word, sizzler reels on there, right? Like there's the amazing things. But if you haven't actually used it or seen somebody really go through it, the main thing with the Teach app, especially where it's at today, and it's just continuing and going to expand more and more, but where it's at today is it does a really good job of giving you an opportunity to say, here's what I teach, here's what I'm working on, here's who I work with, here's what I need. And the focus is lesson plans, rubrics, quizzes, and study aids. Today, that means flashcards. There's more coming soon. In the next month, I understand there's more and more coming. But that's really what it does well. And kind of the point today is to help you put together those things that just need to be done, right? Things you need to get done, things that are helpful to guide your work, but can take a lot of time. So when to use this, structured creation. So this is things you just need to get done that are structured, that have some things to them that you need to get taken care of. The other thing we're going to spend a few more moments on is these Copilot agents. And I hope through talking about how these work together, that will be some light bulb moments for some of you. Because an agent, if you haven't played with one of those yet, they're super simple to create and have lots of possibilities. And the main thing I want you to see about agents is that really they're open for creativity and customization. The Teach app is a little bit more structured. This is what it does. This is how it does it. Now there's some, you can get creative with some of that, but it's really kind of structured. Agents are really wide open. There's lots of things you could do. And I've already seen some amazing examples either shared at conferences or in social media in different places. So the free agents we're going to talk about, that's easy to personalize, customize, get kind of creative, figure out new workflows, and what's going to work for you. Can support all kinds of different areas. And what's cool about this too is the Teach app, when you create something in there, you're trying to really be targeted. With an agent, you can leave it a little bit more open-ended. I'll show you an example of this. And then as you query that agent, you can give it some specifics. And so in one conversation, or using the same agent, I should say, you can share it with a second grade teacher, a fifth grade teacher, a ninth grade teacher, and maybe even a college professor. And it can answer all of your needs. So there's a lot of flexibility there, which is kind of cool. So we're going to go through some of that. And then we're going to look at how do they work together? How do they work together? When do we use that Teach app? When do we use the agent? And how does that work? So I'm going to come back to the slide in a second. So I just went to office.com. You can also do the URL m365.cloud.microsoft. And here, the main place that it usually brings you to is the chat. So for example, if I just go to office.com, it reroutes me to this page. If I'm already logged in, if not, it'll prompt me to log in. Feel free to do this along with me in our short time together, or you can just watch along. And while we're here, if again, you're logged in with your educator account, you should soon, if not today, see over the left-hand side here, this app called Teach. That's pretty easy to remember and look for. And so when I click on the Teach app, this is what it looks like. You're going to see curriculum planning, homework and assessments, and study aids and more. So you see today, curriculum planning means a lesson plan. So you can click on that, And you're going to go through, and I've already done one, so you can see it remembers, hey, do you want to use the same criteria? And so I can click that. It says math, 5th grade, and my language. Then you can give it a description. So what are you teaching? What does this lesson plan need to cover? This is where it's using Copilot on the back end, right? This is more like an agent. It already has some things set up on the back. You fill it in and say, here's what the lesson is about. Here's what I need to write it for. Here's the activities I want to be kind of come up with. Copilot, help me figure this out. You can add content. So if you have a PDF, a PowerPoint, right, whatever, you have some things maybe you've used before from your curriculum you're using, whatever it is, you can add that here and it'll adapt the lesson plan to kind of use those materials. And then, of course, you can add in your standards. So I'm currently in North Carolina, so that's why I chose North Carolina, and it remembered that. These are the subjects and strands I had chosen before, so you can see it remembered those. So that kind of makes it a little bit faster. Of course, I can always go in and say, actually, right now, I'm going to be teaching social studies, and this is the strand in 5th grade here in North Carolina. So I'm going to do an inquiry band, gathering evidence, and then usually with that, I'm also going to choose history. So I'm going to do both, right? 2 strands to go with that. And then I'm going to click add. And so there it's automatically grabbing those standards to help write that lesson plan. So I'm not going to do one right here. I'm going to show you an example in a moment, but I want you to see what that looked like to create it. And you see it says more coming soon. An example of that, homework and assessments. Last week, quizzes wasn't here, but now it is this week. And maybe it is in yours as well. I know it's rolling out across. So just be aware that some of these features are coming throughout this time. So you could have some new ones pop up soon. Rubric, very similar. Grade level, subject, title, I should say, description, add your standards, and then you can walk through how you want the criteria to be created. I'll show you an example. Quiz, this, you can kind of see some of them here on my screen. This is basically a really nice formatted front end for it to create a quiz form. So it's Microsoft Forms what it creates. The one thing that I really appreciate that's new, though, is practice mode. So this is where it defaults the quiz to give the students a chance to keep practicing and be able to see the questions and be able to look at them before they actually submit it. So it depends on what your objective is, right? But that's a nice feature to have built in. So I'll show you an example. And then study aids, today's flashcards. Again, I'll show you an example, but you can choose, you want terms, questions, or multiple choice. Here you give it the content. You can give it all kinds of different notes, right? What do you want it to do? What kind of questions do you want it to have? And then the AI builds it out for you. And then you can see down here in history, these are the ones I've created. So let's look at the rubric I created and just open up here in the browser. Just simple 5-paragraph essay rubric, right? This is something that maybe a lot of you have used before or seen something similar. Personally, teaching social studies, I did quite a bit of writing in my class. My students did, I should say. And I was doing all kinds of rubrics, and it was kind of a pain to create those rubrics over and over again. Those of you that remember Rubistar, right? I used that when I first started teaching. And so this is awesome to have it help us create this really quick and easily, which is great. And then I'll come back to that one. Here's the lesson plan. Oh, I already had it open, but you can see that lesson plan. It does a really good job formatting it. And of course, I can also, after it creates it, give it feedback, just like a Copilot or any other AI. You can iterate and say, actually, please add, please take away, please change. And it'll automatically update before you save it. And in this case, it's saving it to my OneDrive. So it does a pretty good job kind of piecing those together, which is pretty cool. And then we'll look at the flashcards. So this is a little bit different, right? So this is a brand new piece that has not been, it's not just a Word document. It's not just a PowerPoint slide. This is actually a new interactive tool that's been built in. So you can see the questions. I can edit any of these. These are all AI created. And then because I'm the educator, I can preview it, or I can click share and there's a new website it goes to and gives the kids a code to try it. I can also drop that into an assignment, right? And then here I can try it. So this is what it looks like. What does it mean to compare two decimals to the thousandths place? And then I can click it and it shows me the other side of the flashcard. And then these are meant to practice. So there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. It's meant to practice. So a student can say, actually, I'm struggling with that one, so I'm going to come back to it. Which symbols? Oh, I know that one. So you can click, I know this. And so you can see it's giving me a count and continuing. I can work through that as I go. And that keeps a count for the students. And they keep going. So pretty cool how that works. And then at any time, I can click exit and come back out here. So that's pretty neat. And that's supposed to expand as well into other types of learning aids. And then again, like I said, for the quiz, it is just a Microsoft form, but it had that nice interface to help us create it quickly and easily. But you notice when I click on it, now it looks like just any Microsoft form I've ever created. I can still edit it just like a normal Microsoft form once it's created. It has the correct answers in there already. So it just helped us make it a lot faster and easier, which is kind of cool. And then same thing, collect responses, grab the URL, send it to a Microsoft team if you're working in Microsoft Teams with your students, anything like that. So that's really awesome to see kind of how those come through and how it's just making it a little bit easier. Now you can do the same thing in Microsoft Teams. So if you have a class team, now I'm not in the classroom anymore, so this is just an empty example. But if I go to assignments, it's now built into here also. And I actually saw this first before it was in the Teach app, but same concept. When I go to create, I'm gonna click new quiz. Some of you may have already seen this. I'm going to create a new quiz. And then now I can draft with Copilot. These used to only be for the paid license. So that's kind of cool. So now it's letting me do it here. So I can say, create a 10. And I could add more instructions, right? Any AI, the more instructions, the more details, the more you give it, the more accurate the output is going to be, always. But here you can see it does a pretty good job. I mean, the standard I gave, it's a pretty normal, basic standard. So it's not a hard one probably for the AI to find examples of and to figure out for you. But here it's formatting it for us, giving us the correct answer, answer key, right? And helping us put that together, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, I can edit that, keep it, delete it, regenerate, give it more details to fine tune. So same concept, but in Teams, you're still using the Microsoft Forms interface instead of that interface of the Teach app, which is kind of cool. Okay, and then now, so that's the Teach app. So let's talk through a workflow. Let's say I use the Teach app, excuse me, and in the Teach app, I went to curriculum and I had to create a lessons plan. I'm going to use this. So we're going to do that decimals. I'm just going to keep using that standard throughout my examples here. So we did a decimal operations for learning decimals to the thousandth place. Now I'm going to create an agent. So under chat, zoom in just a tiny bit so you can see that really good. Over here on the left-hand side, you see chat. That's where I'm normally talking to Copilot. Underneath that, you should see agents. If you don't, look if there's something you can kind of unfold, right? You can open up, look and make sure if there's something you can unfold and look for create agent. And when I click that, it's going to give me this nice interface that asks me some questions. What do you want to do? And just to save time, you don't have to watch me type. I typed this ahead of time. So I actually asked Copilot to help me put together some instructions to create an agent based on, I gave it the criteria and the standards and everything around fifth grade. So here I'm telling it what to do. I'm just going to use Common Core because I know we're all from different areas. And so here's the types of things I want it to be able to do in BASIC. So it says, great, what do you want to name it? That sounds great. Sure. And then just having that natural language conversation about what do we want to name it? How do we want it to function? It asks me some more questions. What do you want it to include? Do you want differentiation? Do you want there to be printable resources? So it's helping me walk through the creation process in this natural language environment so that we can figure this out. Now, you can continue this conversation. It'll help set up like 80 to 90% of it without you even having to go to the back end. Or you can even just pause here and click on the configure tab. So I'm going to show you that. The configure tab allows me to change the name, change the description, and really the description is most important if you're going to share this with somebody else. If you're just using it for yourself, the description is not as important, but what is hugely important is the instructions. And so we can see just based on that small little bit I put in that response, that first response, it already generated some pretty decent instructions here. Now, I actually asked Copilot beforehand to help me create instructions to create a Copilot agent. So I asked Copilot to help build a Copilot agent, right? It's kind of meta, but it did a great job. So I'm just going to copy and paste that and drop that in here. So you can see it's kind of long. I already have this one at the top. The things you need to think about. So if you're thinking about how you want to do this, if you want to create your own, some things to think about. Tone. How do you want it to respond to you? Or especially if you're creating it and sharing with others. So when I worked in it as a tech coach, I would have created this, right? And then shared it with other educators, with those teachers I'm supporting. Tone. How do I want it to respond to them? Formatting. What do I want these to look like? Headings, subheadings, bullet lists, all the things. Differentiation expectations. Do I want it to differentiate? If I do, what does that look like? What do I want it to put together in differentiation? That's a hugely important one. And then some examples. Copilot, all AI. When you're building something like this, examples help it, again, know how to respond. Your output is going to be better if you have more details in your input. So anything I can give it in the input is just going to help it do better. And then some final instructions to help it kind of make sure that it's giving us what we want. Some things I always say is whether I want it concise or not, practical classroom use. Because sometimes if I don't give it some instructions like that, it'll get a little kind of going farther along. And I'm like, no, 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 practical. Like I need to be able to do this in my classroom, not like pie in the sky, wish I could someday. I need to do this tomorrow. Like I want it practical. So that's important to put in there. Yeah. So before answering, I always tell it to like make sure that it's checking these things. And sometimes what I'll also put in instructions, whether in agent or just in my Copilot in general, this is actually in the memory of my Copilot, the one I use every day, is ask me questions I haven't thought to add. And what that does is it forces Copilot to ask clarifying questions, which is kind of cool. Now, I'm not going to spend time to go through this. I already created one, so you could see what it looks like. So this is what it looks like after I clicked the word create at the top right. And then you can see it has some prompts right here. I can click see more. And so these are kind of those ready-made prompts that I can use because I put in those instructions. So for example, let's go back. The Teach app. I created a lesson plan. From that lesson plan, I can now say, okay, I want to use an agent to help me create some of those instructional materials. So I'm using both things to get what is most needed. The lesson plan, really easy to do in the Teach app, really quick and easy. So now I can use the agent for what it's strong for, creativity and customization. So here I want some instructional materials needed for my lesson on decimals to the I know, spelling quickly. And then I can say I need, for English language learners, special needs, and 3 levels in my class And so now it'll take that and help me start creating these. And usually what it'll do is it'll give you some things to do, some differentiated ways that you can use it. So you can see for the English language learners, it's using sentence frames, which is a common practice for English language learners. For students with special needs, it's asking like, hey, here's how we can do that. And then here's how we can break these down. And then it asks the questions. How do you want these? What are these? What are you going to do with them? Do they need to be printed? Right? It'll start asking you all those kind of questions. So again, I'm using the Teach app for what it's really good at, and then now coming into the agent and using what it's really good at. Now, I don't want to, I could spend a lot of time here, and there's a lot of customization you can do. I want to show you one more thing about agents, and then we're going to go back. So I'm going to hover over the name of my agent on the left-hand side, and there's these three dots, and it says Edit. So at any time, you're like, oh, the agent isn't quite doing what I wanted to do. Every time it keeps doing this, this, or that. I wish it would do that, right? You can always go to Edit and go back into that configure and change something in the instructions. The other thing I meant to show is down here is the knowledge source. So if you have a good example somewhere, for example, the state standards, the state assessment, I know for a fact, North Carolina, I was in Arizona for a long time. That's where I taught in Arizona. If you go to the state's Department of Education, there are examples on their website of these types of mathematical practices. So I could grab that link and add it right here as a knowledge source that I want the agent to refer to. So you can give it knowledge sources. Those can be really helpful. I can also say, hey, search all websites, or no, don't. Only use the specific source that I give you. So that's a nice differentiator as well. Whereas the Teach app is going to use everything Copilot has access to. Here, you can get really specific and say, no, I want you to do this. So that's another really important piece. This is new-ish as of this fall that I can make sure and like, hey, no, I want you to create documents and or images. And then I can also customize those suggested prompts that you saw when I first got started. And then I can click update when I'm ready to go, and it'll update my agent. So if we go back to what I was doing here, things to think about is that Teach app is where you want to create those consistent materials, right? Minimal setup. You don't need to do all the back end like I did with the agent. It's ready to go, right? Microsoft has got it ready for you. It's ready to go, which is amazing. The agent takes that personalization, takes that time to tweak, to figure out what you want it to do, but it's more customizable and creative, which is pretty cool. And then together, you can help save a lot of time because you can come at it from both sides, which is really helpful. Yeah, so the knowledge source, based on the question in the chat, because this is the free agent, I just want to call this out, the free agent does not allow you to upload Word document, PDF, etc. It says website. You notice there's no upload button. Now that is important to remember. The paid license where you can use Copilot Studio, you can upload documents, you can link SharePoint sites, you can do way more when it comes to documents as knowledge sources. The free version of an agent, you're only allowed to use something that's what we call web grounded. So it's going out to the web and grabbing that resource. It's not uploading or grabbing things out of your OneDrive, your SharePoint, etc. So great question. Yeah, so the Teach app is free. It's 100% free, which is amazing, right? The chat question. So Teach app over here, this is a free demo account. This is not like something specific from Microsoft or something for me because we're a training partner. This is a free app, so it's just here. I didn't pay for it, right? This is a free account I'm using, educator account. So that's, yeah, it is free. It should be available to everybody that has a Microsoft Education account. Log in, try it. It's there, which is pretty cool. I want to just call out a couple of things as we kind of get going, some quick wins, some things to think about. Just try it. Jump into the Teach app if you see it available already. Create a rubric, create a lesson plan. Think about your agent. Maybe you like to have exit tickets every day or once a week. Maybe that's a quick win. where you can create an agent that always creates the same format of exit ticket, or creates the same format of parent communication, but you can have it differentiate for the different kids, the different activities. Get creative with that. How can an agent help you create and put all that together? Start with some projects, try some different things and see what works for you. And then this is a document. So I'm going to drop this in the chat, but then I also want you to be able to scan that if that's helpful. So I'll drop this link in the chat. There we go. And this is just a document to help you get going. This is just something I created with the help of Copilot. I gave Copilot my notes, my outline for this presentation, and said, help me create a takeaway for participants. And so it created about, I don't know, 75% of that. And then I went and added, changed, made some changes. So again, just a good example, right, of how Copilot can help us speed up our workload. And so the non-free agent, if I'm understanding your chat question correctly, the agent I referred to where you can upload where you can upload PDFs and documents and link to your SharePoint and your OneDrive, it is a separate paid license. It has nothing to do with A3, A5, all of that. That is completely separate. It is a separate $15 per user per month. So that is completely separate. You'd have to talk to somebody in IT or leadership about that. Yeah, I'm working with some schools and some universities, colleges right here in the US that have it, and it is a completely separate license. So this document, I paused for a second to make sure you could wanted to see, but this is just to kind of give you some of the notes from some things that we talked about today, some ideas, and then just some things to try, right? Create your agent kind of walks you through how to do that, gives you some of the things I mentioned: tone, formatting, differentiation, exemplars, what do you want it to match, and then test it. And then what are some things you can try tomorrow? So some ideas to kind of help you get going. And then down towards the bottom, some things to look out for. Always validate, review, adjust it if needed. And then further towards the bottom, some common challenges I've seen. So there might be some specific things that you see the agent like, it has an issue. How can you go back and fix that? Same with the Teach Agent. I don't have a ton of experience with the Teach Agent yet, but just some things Copilot helped me came up with for that one. And then some resources. There's some great things on, it didn't come through. I'll change that. It'll update live for all of you. But I meant to put the education.learn or learn.education, right? So at Microsoft, so Microsoft Learn is a great resource. And then hopefully you get a chance to try this out. And then, of course, I mentioned at the beginning, we have lots of webinars we've been doing in January. I think we're actually going to have 4. We're almost going to have weekly webinars based not just on Copilot, but AI, Canva for education, and some other partner tools that we're working with, which is exciting. And then throughout the spring, we're going to continue to do webinars. Hopefully you can join us for those. This recording will be up on our YouTube page momentarily, pretty quick. But otherwise, thanks for joining me. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And if you want to stay in touch, would love to continue to connect with you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.